today from the Johns Hopkins University database, the global confirmed cases today are well over 6.5 million. And we have over 385,000 deaths from COVID-19. And now, since we are looking at Canada and Nigeria today, it's also important to at least have some good idea about what's the situation on ground in terms of the official figures. In Nigeria, as of today, the total number of cases are 11,166, and deaths are recorded at 315. And in Canada, we have a total of 93,000 cases so far, and then about 747,498 deaths so far. So you could see there's a variation in that, partly because, well, Nigeria and Canada, technically speaking, don't quite compare with other countries like Italy, France, or the United States in terms of both the number of cases and also the number of deaths. However, today we're looking at this. I'd just like to bring our attention to one thing. There are so many things happening around COVID-19, from economic to social to personal lives of people. And of course, the medical, we are very aware of that. But there's one aspect that often we forget when we are in this situation, and that being the experiences of those who have encountered this disease firsthand. And part of that experience beyond the hospital walls is how they are perceived in society, or how they're viewed in society or in their communities, or sometimes even within their larger families, sometimes because of fear or misinformation, or perhaps lack of information, as it may be. And that can in turn result in stigmatization and a feeling of isolation from those who are either experiencing the disease right now, or those who have had the COVID-19, or who have had the symptoms, or who have been admitted and perhaps knowable to people around them that they actually had it, or that they have it. And this is one of the things we really want to key on today. So I would just like to push in one thing. There is the issue of community and solidarity during this period. And of course, the idea of solidarity has been pushed forward greatly by the WHO in trying to resolve this situation. But how far has that gone? Internationally, we've seen how countries are trying to help each other. Germany, for example, sending helping France and Italy out in treating intensive care unit patients. And also China and Canada had that bilateral relationship where Canada had initially donated personal protective equipment, PPE, to China at the beginning of the epidemic turned pandemic. And then later on, of course, when Canada had its own situation, China also helped that way. And also there is also the lingering issue of the Chinese medical personnel in Nigeria, whom, as one aspect of the news would have it, were being sent by the Chinese government to help Nigeria in a sense. But of course, there are other versions of the story. So there is a sense in which we see that idea of solidarity playing out on the international scene. But then how much of that solidarity happens within communities? And I think the best people to tell us that would be those who have experienced this disease, those who have gone through the various stages of that, who they are well placed to be able to tell us what that situation is like within their communities, within their localities where they live, and also perhaps largely speaking from their experiences. So right now, I will stop here, and perhaps we have one of them on now. Ifegbeshan Timile, if I'm right, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, so I'll just give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself generally. Just give us a background of about you besides COVID-19. We have a lot of time to talk about COVID-19, but tell us about yourself generally and background-wise.
Okay, good afternoon, morning, and evening, as we said. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Timile. You can just call me Timmy. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a physiotherapist. I work in Lagos University Teaching Hospital. I have my interest in sports physiotherapy, orthopedics, and musculoskeletal. I love football. I love to play.
Okay, Timmy, if you could speak a little bit louder, so it's the voice can come through properly. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better now.
Yeah. Okay. So I said, can just call me Timmy. Timmy is fine. Okay. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm a physiotherapist. I work in Nigeria, Lagos University Teaching Hospital. I'm doing my internship presently. I love sports, physiotherapy, anything related to orthopedics and musculoskeletal. Okay. So I think that's all I'll say.
Thank you very much, Timmy. And I'm just checking for a second to see if we have our second speaker on yet. If not, then we'll just continue. We'll just continue on.
Yeah, I think we can just continue on. She has to now update her app, but hopefully will join us in a bit. So maybe the second half of the discussion will bring her in and then talk to.
Okay. Okay, then that'll work out very fine.
Okay.
So, Timmy, we want to believe that being on this forum today and having come to talk with the rest of us, we just want to believe that you had COVID-19, but would need to hear from you specifically to affirm that belief. Because until you have said, the rest of us would just be saying, oh, perhaps he had it. And of course, maybe the looks on people's eyes looking at you right now, oh, hey, yeah, that's one of the COVID-19 people. I hope we don't have any of that online right now. So if you could walk us through the diagnosis for how you thought or how you believe you contracted that disease, your initial contact with healthcare workers, how you felt emotionally about it, and also perhaps the kind of symptoms, whatever kind of symptoms you had, the level of severity. You are a physician, so you'll be able to give us, physiotherapist, but you may be able to give us better detail about the kind of severity of the symptoms that you had. So if you could walk us first through the diagnosis from personal experience where you got the contact, through the initial contact with healthcare workers and how that affects you, how you felt that enhanced your feeling, and then of course then the level of COVID-19 symptoms that you had.
Okay, thank you so much, Samuel. So I had contact with a colleague, right, who was positive, and at that point she wasn't aware. Okay, so she had contact with a patient who later tested positive. So now when she did a test and a result came out, through contact tracing by the NCDC, I got contacted to also go perform a test. This was in April. I had my test on the 26th of April, and my results came out on the 30th of April. So after the test, when I got there, I listed people that I had contact with between that in like a week, I can remember. And so on 30th of April, I got called. I was told to go isolate because I'm already a suspected case since I've had contact with a confirmed case. Yes. On 30th of April, in the evening, night around 9 p.m., I got called that my result is positive. Okay. So on the 1st of May, now because I stay in the hospital environment, on 1st of May, I just packed my things. So I'd called them, those that were in the admission center that I knew, okay, what are things that we need? So I packed my stuff, bags, and gadgets, and moved there. Now I was asymptomatic. Okay. At
the point at which you were being admitted to the isolation center, you were asymptomatic still.
Yeah, I was asymptomatic. Now, even all through, the only times I had things like symptoms were just side effects of some medications that I was given. Apart from that, I didn't have fever. My temperature was normal all through. I didn't have any cough or sore throat or any respiratory issues at all. So I was asymptomatic also.
Okay, so I would like you to expand a little bit more about the moment where you first got to know that your colleague had been in contact with a COVID-19. Was it a COVID-19 patient? What was your feeling, or what was your reaction to that whole situation, given that you were a probable case at the point?
Okay, well, at that point, I was scared. But the fact that I was scared, I was still concerned because I was trying to handle it. Okay, since this stuff has happened. Now, I had known about COVID all along. I've been trying to read up on it because I just figured that since I'm in an environment where the chances of getting infected is high, so it's just common sense for me to prepare my mind for the worst. So I started reading about it. I was following the whole thing because I've been hearing issues of some patients coming and not giving correct histories as to where they are coming from and their travel history. So I just prepared my mind, okay, it's possible. So now when I got the news, I was scared. Like, okay, now it's real. Now I've had contact with someone that is positive. So, but I was still optimistic. Like, okay, maybe I won't be positive.
Okay, and were you eager to have the test done on you at the time you heard about the possibility?
Yes.
And how soon did that come?
The same day the NCDC came to pick the colleague I had contact with. Then I went to the center also. I went to the testing center. We have 1 year in Luke, so I just went there.
Okay. Okay.
I was advised to also do it.
Okay. So and then if I get correctly from what you said, it took about 4 days to get the results.
Yes.
And what happened to you within those 4 days?
I was isolating. I was self-isolating. I was advised to just isolate till my results come out.
Okay. And do you happen to know of any of your colleagues who were suspected cases who eventually didn't test positive and may have continued their lives differently for you?
Yes. Now, it wasn't for me directly, but at some point, I knew some of my friends also that had contact or that were suspected, and they went to do the test.
Okay, and those didn't have COVID-19?
Yes. Some were positive, some were negative.
Okay. So, well, the good thing is good to know that at least right at the beginning, through much of the situation, you didn't have any serious symptoms from that. Can you walk us just quickly or briefly through how the recovery process was, the time during quarantine, and then perhaps the experience at the isolation center? We hear a lot of horrible things about some isolation centers around Nigeria. What was the situation like? Personal situation as in terms of the attention you got, healthcare attention you got, and also the overall situation of or the living condition of the center which you were at. You could name the center if you feel comfortable.
Okay, so I was in Luth. There's an isolation center here in Lagos.
And Luth, sorry, what the Luth stands for? What?
Lagos University Teaching Hospital.
Okay.
And now, as soon as I got in, the doctors came. They checked my vitals, checked my blood pressure, checked my temperature. Now they gave every one of us a thermometer. I think I don't still have that here.
Okay.
We're giving this thermometer, every one of us in the station center. So every morning and evening they come around and they check our temperature. Okay. So then our oxygen saturation too was also checked. They come in, give us our medications morning, afternoon, evening. We also have food morning, afternoon, and evening. They were very nice. I mean, they'll come ask how you are feeling. So if some people had symptoms, right? So they had medications that was given for their particular symptom.
Mm-hmm.
For example, so if some people didn't need some medications, they won't give them. But all of us had a routine medication that we're all given. So if you now complain of any extra symptom or you have any other emergency or comorbidity, then they were also being managed for that. Now, some people were on oxygen. Now, because I'm a physiotherapist, okay, and so I got there and I was asymptomatic, I saw quite a number of folks in the center who were also asymptomatic.
Yes.
So I think from the second day, I started exercising. So we started like aerobics in the center. Every morning we do exercises.
Is that part of the routine at the isolation center, or that was your personal routine?
And that was my routine because I was a physiotherapist and I knew the importance of exercising, even for COVID patients. Because if we'll be in an enclosed place for a long period of time, then it's good to keep the body active. Okay, so I was doing that. Then I also encouraged the asymptomatic folks to also join. Now, I've spoken with the medical team, so I just discussed a lot of things, and they were open to it, so well appreciated. So now, if some patients that were on oxygen, okay, so I was making contact with one of my consultants because I started telling people that I knew that were learned in the medical field. Okay, I tested positive.
Okay,
calm down. It's not a death sentence. You'll be fine. So she sent me a guideline by the Nigerian Society of Physiotherapy. So I was even encouraging those that were
guideline about
management for patients with COVID.
Okay, and that's by the Nigerian Society of Physiotherapists.
Yes. So at some point, even those that were on oxygen, now because I was asymptomatic, I was able to do a lot of things, even while in the isolation center as a healthcare practitioner myself. So then I was telling them, encouraging them, instructing them on breathing exercises to help them breathe better because they were on oxygen and they had issues with breathing. Okay. So for me, it was an experience at the isolation center. The doctors were nice. They came, checked up on everybody. And at some point, we had to begin to encourage ourselves because it was getting tiring. Some people were losing hope. Some people were feeling depressed because they've been away from their family. Now, I spent only 12 days. I got there on the 1st of May. On the 12th of May, I tested negative. I tested negative for the second time. So now when I first got there, they were testing us every 3 days.
Yes.
So every 3 days, you run another test. Okay. So my first test was still negative. Then the second two. And the policy then was when you test negative twice, you get discharged. Okay. So on the second, so I tested negative second time on the 12th of May. Then, and that was when I got discharged.
Okay, I just have one question around, that may not be specific to the isolation center where you were at, but there were rumors at some point that some isolation centers, that people who were there, many people who came through the isolation center got malaria medication, prescription, and that kind of triggered perhaps a misinformation that malaria treatment was the norm, or what that was the only thing that people got from it.
Okay.
So those of us outside tend to hear a lot, and that was part of it. Can you tell us about what kind of medications, perhaps, if you know, you may know some of them given your peculiarity of the profession, but what kind of medication, and whether does that include some malaria treatment as we have heard from people around?
Okay, so I'm going to be careful not to mention the medications, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Just give us generally, yes.
Okay, but generally, since now, I think everybody was treated for malaria. Now, this is understandable. Malaria is endemic. Okay, especially in Nigeria. So if we are dealing with a virus which affects the immune system as it were, then it's just like a routine that you get treated for malaria. Okay, so it's not wrong if people said they were given malaria medication, but I was also treated for malaria. Okay. And once the dosage ended, everybody was fine. So I think as we were saying.
Okay. So then I would understand it then that the malaria medications or the malaria treatment was a precautionary measure rather than treating COVID-19, but it was a precautionary measure to help boost your immune system in terms of clearing whatever malaria residue you may have in your system.
Exactly.
Rather than COVID-19.
Exactly. Because there is no particular drug for the virus itself. So it was just like maybe a prophylactic treatment. Okay, so let's take malaria out of the way in case you have any plasmodium issues. And while we let your body recuperate by they're giving us a lot of food, fruits, and water. So to build the immune system and let our body recuperate and fight the virus.
Okay, so I'll just move one step further. So having gone through that, through the quarantine process, and you were tested negative twice, of course, the second negative must have been a very good news for you and for folks around you. Can you tell us about the kind of support you got? Support both from the isolation unit. You've already mentioned about how you were actually supporting a lot of other in isolation with you. But tell us about the kind of support that you got, or the perceived support that you got, even within the isolation, while you were in the isolation unit, within the isolation unit, and from your other network, from your network outside of the isolation center. What kind of support did you get, and if you can take us through that?
Okay, so now I didn't tell many people about when I tested positive. Okay, so now this was because I wanted to avoid panic. I didn't tell my parents. I told my elder sister, my elder sibling. I didn't tell my parents because they are going to be scared. Parents, they will be scared. Okay, so I told a few friends, and my professional body was aware with many of my senior colleagues. So we were always checking up on me, calling me. We had almost video calls. And it wasn't only me, most of us there, like the only thing we could do to relate with the outside world was video calls. Okay. Then now in the isolation center, at some point, we became like a family because everybody, we are there for a long, like we don't know how long we stay. So at some point we knew ourselves, we gist, we play, we had games. Some people came with cards, so we play cards, we talk. At some point, and we had people who were critical, who had not critical cases, who had a bit of severe cases. So we're always looking out for one another. Every one of us were given a face mask daily. So every day they give us a face mask to use. And we had people that didn't want to eat or go and encourage them. So it was more like a family. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so I've just got information now that the second speaker has joined us, Eve Woma, if I get your name correctly. I'll come to you, Eve Woma, just in a minute, but I just wanted to ask one more question. So if you can, I was just interested to know, you talked about not telling your parents partly because of panic mode, that you might raise their panic mode.
Yes.
What would you think? What were you thinking about at the time? As in, what do you think would have informed the kind of panic, or what kind of panic they might have had? Is it that of fear for your life? Is it that of fear of people around and that kind of network? What was the nature of the panic that you imagined that they?
Okay, no, Samuel, look at it. It's a virus that no one knows about. Okay, every day you just wake up and you see the news and you see chances of something happens to people with coronavirus, right? So when I first got to the isolation center, the first thing I did was I took my password off my phone, right? Okay. With the belief that I prayed. Now I'm a Christian, so I prayed. I hope that I was going to survive. But there was still a bit of fear. So the panic is parents. In fact, when I told them when I got discharged, they were always calling me. So have you eaten today? What did you eat? So imagine if I told them when I was there, their mind they would just be concerned. I mean, they even want to come to check and all those things. It will be quite overwhelming.
I can imagine that.
So that was why I just decided to not tell them, because I hoped that I was hoping that I was going to come out of it. and which
Okay.
I did.
All right. So I'll just pause here for a while. Let me try to bring on Eve Woma on the line. Eve Woma, are you on? If you can speak, let me hear you. Hello, Eve Woma?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you happen to have your video?
Video on.
Yes, if you have,
Okay.
if you have video, if you could turn on your video, please, your camera, so we can see you. Okay. Yeah,
Can you see me now?
have you. Yes, yes. Sorry, we've missed you for the good half of this chat. So I'll just give you a minute or two just to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself generally, of course, outside of COVID-19. So we want to know you outside of COVID-19. Everybody kind of just knows you. Okay, this lady who had COVID-19. Okay, now we want to know outside of COVID-19, just a brief introduction of you.
All right. I'm Ifeoma Tom. I'm a registered nurse working in a private setting in Lagos.
Okay.
Do you get?
Yes,
I'm Ifeoma Tom.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Oh.
Yes. So can you just walk us through your initial experience in terms of how you perhaps got the COVID-19, how you got tested, or how it got confirmed, your initial contact with healthcare workers, and what kind of symptoms you had?
Okay. Well, I've heard Steve said his own part of the story, but mine wasn't a pleasant one. I had severe symptoms of COVID-19. I was exposed at work, so I went from 14 days self-isolation. Along the line, got tested. For the first 14 days, I didn't have symptoms, but on the 15th day, everything changed. I started. Mine, I didn't have fever. I didn't have headache. It just attacked my lungs and my heart. I couldn't breathe. I was wheezing like someone who has asthma, although I'm not asthmatic. It also affected my heart. I have palpitation. My heart was beating out of control. And suddenly, it wasn't really a nice experience. Although I was evacuated, not really early, it took them 3 days before they evacuated me, and it was already worsened. And when I got
Evacuated
isolation
from where to where?
Okay, I was taken from my house to the first isolation center in Lekki, the hotel converted to isolation center.
Okay.
So on 26th April 2020, so I was evacuated. Although it took NDC I think three days before they took me to that center. And the condition was I've already worsened. So when I got there, they checked me. Nothing was done until the next morning. So that morning I noticed that one of my colleagues and friends was also in the center. So I have to tell her, look at how I'm feeling. I'm not breathing well. As I'm talking to you, I don't know what may happen to me the next moment. So luckily, she raised the alarm. They tried contacting my clinic. Everybody were running health together. Along the line, I just noticed that tears are just coming up from my eyes. I was helpless. My oxygen level has gone down. The number should be 95 to 100, but mine went down to 68. And my pulse level went down to 49. Normal should be 60 to 100. So I just had signs of respiratory failure. But luckily, they brought oxygen along the line. And I was kind of better. Then from there, they now they have to transfer me to Yaba Isolation Center. You know, that's where I stayed for the remaining 15 days there.
Okay,
So
so
it wasn't really a good one.
yes, in total, how long did you stay in the isolation center?
Okay. I spent 17 days in isolation center. But in that isolation center, I stayed on oxygen for 5 days.
Okay.
But the total was 17 days.
Okay. So you already mentioned that you were on oxygen for 5 days, which really presents to us that you had a much more critical situation than
Exactly.
than Timmy did. So your experiences of COVID-19 are like in two different worlds, and from infection to recovery. So can you give us a brief description of what the treatment process was? You had the oxygen, of course. What kind of treatment you got, if you knew, or how the treatment took place, and then what was the general condition of the quarantine location where you were at, and how was the kind of care you got?
Okay. You know, it wasn't really a good experience, you know. So from the first time they brought me to that Yaba Isolation Center, the doctor informed me that if my condition worsened, I'm going to intensive care unit.
Okay.
So
and where would the intensive care unit be at?
Still in Yaba.
Okay.
So when he mentioned that, you know, I knew that this is really a serious case. So I have to try my best, not just what they're giving me, and also as a healthcare worker, I have to get my make sure I come out of it. I don't want it to get worse soon and, you know, start depending on ventilator and all that. So what I did was I have to go online, browse some breathing exercise, positioning, because there's a study I read. The study said that people that have breathing problem with COVID-19 shouldn't lie on their back, rather they should lie on their stomach, because it helps the lungs to get more oxygen. So that was really my position throughout that 5 days. Then the breathing exercise also helped. Also saw that online. You know, I did that. Then the treatment generally was good. You know, I think federal government or state government, they are really trying that aspect. The environment was conducive. You know, the food, you see the kind of food they give us, they feed us very well because they know that this COVID attacks the immune system. So the main number one aim is to build up the immune system to fight the disease and treat other opportunist diseases along the line. So the treatment generally was good. The nurses, the doctors were okay. Apart from the what experience I had in that first isolation center, they didn't come along around to check on me and all that. They didn't give me the oxygen in time. That's the only problem. But the environment is okay. But when I got to Yaba, Yaba was a different place altogether. You know, they feed us well. They give us fruit. They give us water. They give us, you know, in the morning they give us eggs. You know, they're trying to feed us well. Then for the drug, I can't really tell it the specific drug. But one thing I noticed is that because treatment is individualistic, you know, they treat each person based on the symptom. So mine, like I had things said, they gave them malaria drugs. I never got malaria drugs.
Okay.
They didn't give me malaria drugs, but they only gave me antiretroviral. They gave me some antibiotics. They gave me a particular drug that opens the lungs.
Okay.
That helps me breathe. So that's the major drug they gave. Then vitamin C. They gave us vitamin C. We take it morning, afternoon, night. So that's the body. Treatment generally was okay.
Okay, so going forward, I just want to ask one more question about the kind of support. So you've given us a very good description of how that kind of medical support that you got within that. But I wanted to expand that to something I'll call emotional support, either from the healthcare workers within the isolation unit, and perhaps other people who are in isolation with you, and also the kind of support, emotional support or whatever you want to call it, that you got from within your network outside of the isolation center. People whom you knew closely or people who remotely knew you, but who just knew you had a situation.
Okay. Let me start from isolation center. You know, the doctors, the nurses, although they don't spend much time with us, but the little time they spend with us, they always encourage us. There's a particular nurse. Now, anytime she comes, she will speak good things, she will talk to us, she will pray for us, just short prayer and she leaves, you know. Then the fellow patient there, you know, along the line, we're like family, you know, they try to encourage you. We pray together, we do things together. We even come outside sometimes, we eat, we play some games, but that was when I was better.
Okay.
Then we also do exercise, although the exercise is not mandatory, but it's left for you because when you do exercise, your oxygen circulates around the body. So I also do that. Sometimes I'll just call one of them, well, let's do exercise and all that.
Okay.
Then outside the isolation center, I never told my parents that I have COVID-19. You know,
Okay.
for my younger sister, I only told people who I know who can withstand it. You know,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I know the kind.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let me push it a little bit forward. Why didn't you tell your parents?
Why I didn't tell them is I know the kind of parents I have.
Okay.
You know, my father and mother, they can't withstand it. You know the way COVID, when you open television, you see people, they show you number of people that died and all that. And if I believe that if I tell them it's to really, they'll be panicking, and I don't want it. I'm in isolation center. I have severe case. I don't even need anyone panicking around me. You know.
Okay.
So I just told few people I knew that would support me. I told my love. I told my younger sister, then few friends and some of my colleagues. So I think they are okay. They call me, they talk to me, you know, we chat, but not for all this chatting and talking where when I was off oxygen mainly.
Okay.
Sometimes
And
I wouldn't really like
okay.
to talk to anybody.
If I could come in here, how did you feel not being able to tell your parents? Obviously, usually those are the first people who want to tell everything that's happening to us, especially when there's good news and all that. Now, how did you feel not being able to tell them? What kind of weight? How did that go through your time in isolation?
You know why I didn't really tell them. Even when I came home, I called my dad and told him, look at what happened to me. You know, he was like, what? You know, he told my mom. I was like, the way they even reacted, you know, why I've already come up from the hospital. Now,
Yeah.
you know, if I've told them when I was in isolation center, it would have been something else. That's the reason why I didn't tell them.
Okay.
Although I felt somehow, though not, I would like to, I felt some kind of bad,
Yeah.
but there's nothing I can do. I just have to save them too.
Okay. All right. So we'll just put you on hold for now. Timmy, if you can unmute yourself, we'll just stay on mute for the rest of the time. We'll just go.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go through the conversation now, having the three of us all together. Ivoma has caught up with us. So can we, Timmy, just give us an overview, given your experience as a healthcare practitioner outside of COVID-19, and then with your experience within isolation unit during COVID-19, and perhaps now that you've come out and you have had time to process. Can you give us just your personal overview about the national healthcare system and the response to COVID-19?
Okay. Thank you so much, Summer. Hello, Yvonne.
Hello.
Yeah.
See?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So now, when I came out, I did something. So I put it on Twitter that I was COVID positive and now I'm negative. And that tweet blew. A lot of people started contacting me. A lot of people reached out. A lot of people criticized me. Some people said I should share the money that government gave me.
Oh, okay. That's
Lie.
interesting.
They said they gave me 1.5 million. I'm serious. I mean, many people were calling me.
Did they really
At
believe
one
that?
point, I was tired.
Did they really believe that
I'm
you were
surprised.
giving money?
Yeah, they did. I mean, like, they believe the government, they believe it's life scores that they were saying. So at some point, it was quite overwhelming for me. But I felt hot. I'm trying to tell you guys that COVID is real and this is what I'm getting. And I've really not faced such criticism before. Now,
Oh, okay.
but as time went on, now my family, they were very, when I had told them, they were very supportive. They were fine. I mean, family is family. They were so caring.
Yeah.
And my friends were there. They were there for me. When they saw that I tested negative and it was fine, I mean, they came around. Everybody was eager. So at some point, they just started telling me that when those that are talking to you anyhow, there are people you really don't know and they don't matter. And
Yeah.
so just let it go. So that happened. Then a lot of people were contacting me to share my story with everyone. At first, I was accepting it, and at some point, I was overwhelmed. Like, am I the only survivor? Like, why are others not coming out to speak? Because every time, everybody, different media outfits were contacting. So I just told them, see, I'm tired because it's taking my time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
making me too tired. I was so fucked up. At some point, when they contacted me, I first told them I'm not interested. Then later, if I kept
We are one of the people who are trying to get you talk more.
yeah, and if I kept messaging, and I said, okay. So now
Okay.
I've been able to save out a lot of people. So
Okay.
that's right. So getting back, I've resumed the work. I'm fine now. I'm fit. To me now, it's a normal thing. Like, okay, I had COVID and recovered. Whoever is still scared of me, I don't know what I can do about that because I mean I didn't choose it, and it's a global pandemic. I mean, we have people that we have this OAPs, we have people outside the country that tested positive, and they'll come out and tell you, see, I'm COVID positive, and nobody is stigmatizing them. So why are we why are people saying it as stigma? I just felt, well, I guess it's the environment we find ourselves. Now, for the government, I think they are trying, at least really, from the isolation center I was, at least my 12 days there, they were really trying. They kept doing everything necessary. So now I don't know people's experience elsewhere, but from my own perspective, especially Lagos State, really, and from the reports about Lagos State is really putting in a lot. So I don't know why people have lost faith in the government. That's why people are believing that they are paying us millions. Okay, why would they pay people millions to have COVID or to say they have COVID?
And this is exactly part of the reason why we are having this conversation, so that at least we get to hear real experiences and some of the kind of misinformation that many of us have or have had or have received from others, at least will dissipate with time. Ivoma, I'll just come across to you now. What is your current personal situation, and what do you think is the current situation of COVID-19 in Lagos, where you are, and perhaps if you have an idea of what it is, what it looks like, what it feels like in the country, maybe where your parents live or where your other relatives or where they live.
Okay. Let me start from when I came back. Although before they discharged me, I got to hear that my landlord told me you don't need to tell people this, that. But when I came back, I'm not this kind of person that likes to tell lies, and someone will ask you, where have you been? I'm not that kind of person. So I decided to go online on my Facebook page, and I wrote about my testimony, and the thing went viral. just like what you said, if you notice, I was just laughing. You know, people were saying that COVID, this thing is scam. You're a marketer. They paid you money. This, that. Even till date, you know, when I do some posts on COVID, they'll say, yeah, they scam this, that. But
one of those, yeah.
Yes, that they pay me money. So I now wrote in one of my posts that they can't pay you money to have respiratory distress. You know, they can't pay you money to have that. I know what I have. It's not even what you wish for anyone, not even your enemy, in case you have enemy, you know. So I made it public, you know, and anytime people ask me, you want to share your story, I'm always willing to share my experience. If most Nigerians would learn and, you know, try and protect themselves that this COVID, they'll tell you, COVID is not here. Right? But you believe COVID is in other countries.
Yes.
But I don't believe it's in Nigeria. You know, it really surprised me. Seriously. You believe COVID is in Ghana, COVID is in America. Somebody even wrote down, asked me that, why is it that I'm just, you know, forming stories? Why is it that they are not feeling the COVID? I was like, you don't need to feel this COVID. You know, people are dying from this. I was just lucky to be alive. Seriously, people are dying from this. That people are not dying in your street doesn't mean COVID-19 is not in Nigeria. You know, I've been trying to, you know, talk about it. I'll keep talking about it. Then another thing I noticed that when I told my parents about that, especially my mother don't believe COVID-19 is in Nigeria.
Okay.
But when I told her my experience, you know, she went and bought masks herself and started, you know, washing hands and doing all those things. Likewise, my cousin, you know, I remember my sister, so she was panicking. I said, don't need to panic. I'm alive. You just need to protect yourself, you know. I'll pass through this thing. I don't want anybody to pass through it. So the best thing for you to do is to wash your hands, do all those. It's not even something serious. It's just very simple thing you have to do, you know, to save yourself from this COVID.
Okay.
So
yeah. So I'd just like to.
The government.
Yes. I'd just like to hold you here for because we're running out of time, and we can talk about this a whole day. And there are people asking questions, and I'm trying to see if we can answer one or two questions as we go along. So someone has asked Timmy if you could share about your lowest points during your experience of COVID-19. I mean, even though you didn't have the severe physical symptoms, but emotional symptoms. What was your most down moment during that period, or after you came out, after you left the isolation, whichever way, or both? If you could share, if you're comfortable sharing that with the rest of us.
Okay. So there was this man, an elderly man that we were always like caring for, not only quite a number of us in the center. So he already had issues. He already had health issues. He had heart issues and liver issues, and he was also COVID positive. So although he tested negative for COVID, I met him in the isolation center. He tested negative. He got discharged. Then we just got the news that he died the next day. Okay, and it was quite painful. And I mean, everybody was so sad because we really tried for this man. There was a time he even slumped. Sometimes everybody came around trying to resuscitate. I was trying to do CPR. I was just trying to help him, and he still survived. And just now hearing that he died, it was quite painful. And, so that was the last moment, because that day the whole world was, we that were there for him, we felt so sad. Every other day it was just normal. Just wake up, do exercises, pray, and eat, pick up your phone. I took my laptop along, so I was just always reading something.
Yes, that must have been a really sad situation. I'll just move across to you, Ivoma. There's still a question. It's for both of you, but I'll start with you. If we have time, I can come back to you, Timmy. So of course, before you fell sick, you would have heard a lot of things about the treatment government gives and all that. Now, and you may have had some expectation about what might happen to you if you happen to be in those centers. Now, what were your expectations, and did it confirm what you experienced at the isolation center, or were the two very different things?
Initially, when they told me I was going to isolation center, I have this mindset, who know where they're taking me to, you know. But when I got there, I saw something different. You know, I saw something good. I saw a therapeutic environment, and everything was nice for me. Then for personal experience, I have moments of depression, especially when I was on oxygen. But from the first day I got exposed, in fact, from the first day I had of COVID, I've been positive about it. Even when I was dying,
Did it ever cross your mind? Did it ever cross your mind that you might be among the numbers that will be counted as those who died? Did it ever cross your mind?
There was a particular day, I think the third day I was on oxygen. I just thought about everything that came to my mind was all about death. You know, if I close my eyes, I'll see as if I'm dying, something like that. But I just have to call someone and tell the person, look at how I'm feeling right now. I don't know what might happen to me in case I die, you know. But the person just assured me, just said, you are not going anywhere. You have to fight and come out of this. So I keep fighting, and thank God I'm alive today to be testifying, you know. It wasn't really nice, but thank God I'm alive.
Okay, well, thank you very much, both Timi and Ivoma. It's been really a great time having you, and especially having people who actually had this experience firsthand. This is not a fiction or hearsay that we hear. There are lots of social media COVID-19 experts, as we all know. But you two are real experts, because this is your life. It's part of your life. It's going to be part of your history. So thank you really for joining us today and for giving us those insights, personal insight, and also your perspective about this disease and also the situation in Nigeria. So I will hand over back to Tom. He's going to help us wrap up this conversation.
Okay,
Tom, over to you.
Great. Thank you all. As Sam just said, we've come to the 1 hour mark, so it is at the end of our time for our discussion today, and I want to thank our speakers for sharing their experience with us. It has been really insightful and interesting to hear how they experienced the disease and everything that sort of came with the disease, especially since you both had very different symptoms and different types of severity of the symptoms. So that was very interesting for us to hear and really hear this firsthand from both of you. We were also expecting to hear this about the situation in Canada, but we'll postpone that to our next webinar. But instead, we got a really detailed inside view on the Nigerian experience, which was very fascinating to hear, especially for those that are not located in Nigeria and sort of, having to deal with their own situation in their countries, wherever they may locate it. And hopefully this helped, shed some light on the situation in Nigeria, and perhaps help erase some of the rumors or fake news that might be going around, and that you also briefly touched on today. I also want to thank our host, of course. So, Dr. Jeve, thank you very much for giving us your time today and leading our discussion. And on a final note, I just want to point out that that next week, GET will host its next webinar from the series Impact and Response to COVID-19 in Africa. And yeah, with that, I want to just thank everybody in the audience for joining us today and asking questions. We tried to address most of them. I think we actually did get through all of them. So thank you all for joining us and participating, and hopefully we'll get to see you again during one of our next webinars.